Yo, what's poppin', my people? It's your boy Crooks the Great, and I'm back at you guys with another banger of a UFC 5 video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what is wrong with UFC 5 right now. Now, I wanted to make this video because I get asked this question a lot in my streams. Do I think UFC 5 is good? What are the problems that I see in UFC 5? What are some of the issues that I think are present in the game right now? So we're going to be touching on some of those things that I think are wrong with UFC 5. But I'm not just going to be all negative in this video. I'm going to point out what I think are issues in the game right now. But I'm also going to talk about what I think EA can do to fix these issues in UFC 5. Because like I say in my streams, I'm not one of those guys that just states problems all the time and then just expects people to go out and fix it. I want to be part of the solution. So I'm going to be giving you guys some of my takes on what I think could fix it. So after this video, please drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what are some of the things that you guys think can combat these problems that we're about to talk about in the video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first thing that I have. And that is the most glaringly obvious thing in UFC 5 right now. And that is the stamina system. The stamina bar and the stamina system doesn't take nearly as much stamina as it should for people throwing high volume strikes, man. You're having a lot of people throw 300 to 400 strikes in a fight and are barely losing at 25% of their stamina. And that to me is not acceptable. It's not. It doesn't make for a very realistic feeling game. It doesn't make for a very good time for a lot of people because, you know, it tends to lead to more block breaking, as well as another issue that we're going to talk about later on in the video. But it tends to lead to more strikes. It tends to lead to people just trying to walk forward, and it doesn't really lead to a good experience for a lot of people, myself included. You know what I mean? I see it as an issue. So me being a high pressure fighter, if I'm saying that it's an issue, then it's an issue. You know what I mean? But a way to combat that is to obviously make the strikes cost more stamina to throw, but also maybe nerfing I don't know if it's necessarily nerfing, but making the stamina drain on shots on block a little bit more prevalent. So what I mean by that is, we all know if you whiff strikes, it's going to take a lot of stamina away from you, as it should. You're whiffing strikes. But shots on block are what tends to get a lot of people pissed off about UFC games, because they don't realize that shots on block don't cost nearly as much stamina as shots that are whiffing. So maybe they can tweak the shots on block to maybe cost a little bit more stamina. But I know this is kind of more of a tricky thing because you don't want to make it to where strikes cost too much on block to where people don't want to actually throw strikes. And that's kind of the tricky part about even nerfing the stamina and getting it to where it's more balanced, is you don't want to make it you don't want it to be overpowered, but you don't want it to be so underpowered that people just don't want to do anything. And that's kind of where I get frustrated with people that tend to go more towards the UFC 3 side, because in UFC 3 we had what we like to call a shield block that didn't allow anybody to get block broken unless somebody literally just wasted their whole stamina bar to get through your block. And that's not cool either. That's not acceptable either. So, you know, I realize this is a tricky one. I wouldn't expect this to be fixed even with the first patch. If they get it right on the first patch, I would be absolutely surprised, because this seems like more of like a trial and error before they're going to be able to get this thing fully balanced. But it is an issue in UFC 5 right now. Now, the second issue that I do have is going to go hand in hand with the stamina system, and that is tracking. Tracking needs to be fixed in UFC 5. This is one of the most frustrating things that UFC has had, the games in general have seemed to have for quite a while now. It's tracking, strikes tracking when they shouldn't be tracking. It's absolutely ridiculous, man. It's tough to deal with, especially with the damage system in this year's game. I had a fight yesterday, I believe. Yeah, it was yesterday. I was fighting an ESFL competitor, actually. And I ducked underneath. I timed it out perfectly. Ducked underneath the Conor McGregor hook with Volkanovski. And instead of his hook going right over my head, it tracks down and throws to where I'm ducking. And I timed it out perfectly. I went back and rewatched the clip and everything. I timed it out perfectly, and I still got hit. And I've heard a lot of instances where people are just getting tagged with shots that really they shouldn't really be getting hit with. You know what I mean? That makes for a very non-enjoyable experience for a lot of the community. So tracking definitely needs to be adjusted in UFC 5. Now, in order to solve this problem, this one, I don't know exactly what they could do. This is more of one of those issues that I would have to get with the Game Changer on and see. Maybe they adjust the accuracy of some fighters. Maybe they, I don't know, maybe they shorten up some frames on certain slips and stuff like that. That I'm not too sure about. But all I know is tracking does need to be adjusted in UFC 5 because it's a very, very big problem amongst the community right now, especially if you're using meta fighters like a Conor McGregor, an alter ego Conor McGregor, or an Israel Adesanya, or somebody like that. Somebody that's ridiculously fast. You're getting caught with shots that you shouldn't really be getting caught with. So hopefully they do fix this within a couple patches of UFC 5. But the next thing that I want to talk about is kind of going to be a little bit of a controversial one because they did overhaul this animation, and that's the overhands. The overhands need to be a little more vulnerable. And what I mean by that is people right now are just chucking overhands in online fights, man. They're just, not only are they using them as block breaking, as a block breaking method, which, I mean, that you can't really do anything about that. You know what I mean? But people are just chucking them, and they have a lot of invincibility frames on them right now. And I feel like they have way too much invincibility frames to where if they get caught in the animation, they just armor right through it. So for those of you guys that don't understand what I'm talking about, let me break down armor. And let me not say invincibility frames, armor. Armor is when you're going through, when somebody's chucking an overhand, you'll notice you can blast them with 2 shots and their overhand is still a heat-seeking missile at your damn face. That's because of armor. Armor is how a shot is affected by other shots, pretty much. Like when you can get caught in a vulnerable state while your strike is in the process of going through. And that's very confusing. I'll break down frames more in depth in a video because it's kind of hard for me to show you guys without actually, or to talk to you guys about without actually breaking down all of frame data, like breaking it down in its entirety. You know what I mean? So I'll make more of an in-depth breakdown on frames coming up here pretty soon. We'll probably be after the first patch, but the overhand I feel like needs to be more vulnerable. It does. Right now, it's really only vulnerable to straight strikes. I notice if you catch somebody with a hook, even if they're leaning into that direction, they'll still armor straight through the punch and literally will blast you pretty much in a vulnerable state. And it does nearly twice as much damage as it does if you're just blocking. You know what I mean? Or you get caught on a jab or something like that. So I feel like that needs to be nerfed just a little bit. Just a little bit. You know what I mean? Not too much to where overhands are useless, but they also need to be nerfed, you know, enough to where people aren't just chucking them as frequently as they are right now in online fights. Now, the fourth and last thing that I do have for you guys here on the video is going to be takedowns. Takedowns are a super big issue right now in UFC 5, ladies and gentlemen. They are. They're not nearly as viable as they should. And we have to adjust that, man. The new TBS system is so good, but it's kind of useless, and it's kind of a null point, or not a null point. It's more of an invalid thing if we can't get him to the ground. Like, we can't use the new submission system if we can't get him to the ground. And this lack of takedowns being viable in UFC 5 has made for people to just start double leg bailing people. That's where the double leg bail spam comes from. Is people want an effective way to be able to get you down on the ground. And if the takedowns aren't going to do it, then they're going to do it by any means necessary. And if that means double leg bailing you 50,000 times to try to get you down, then that's what they're going to do. And I feel like we kind of need to help ourselves not trend towards spamming by fixing the takedowns. Now, Romero actually made an interesting video last week. And in a little clip, he was talking about how whiffing a combination doesn't give you as much GA advantage as it should. Whiffing a strike and whiffing a combo have the same amount of GA given as they do together. And that's really kind of incredible if you think about it. So if I whiff a hook, just one lead hook, that's going to give me the same amount of grappling advantage as if that opponent missed a 3-punch combination. They give the same thing, and that's crazy to think about, but that's in the game. So that is pretty crazy, right? That's pretty crazy. That doesn't need to be the case. We need to maybe make strikes have a set GA advantages that they give on whiff. So let's say the jab obviously is going to do the least amount of damage, right? So maybe the jab, if you whiff a jab, you get 5%. You get 5% GA to your opponent if you whiff. And maybe all the other strikes in terms of punches, maybe they give 10, a set of 10. So if you whiff a jab uppercut or a jab lead hook, you're giving up 15% GA. That's going to make it's going to make for an easier time for your opponent to get a takedown, or for you to get a takedown if you've made your opponent whiff. And I feel like that would make such a big difference in people's abilities to get takedowns. They wouldn't need to feel the urge to go and spam double leg bails. Or let's say somebody throws a 3-punch combination, right? They throw a jab of the wombo combo, the jab, rear uppercut, lead hook, right? So 5% GA if they whiff on the jab, 10% on the uppercut, and 10% on the lead hook. That's literally going to give you 25% GA. 25% GA on whiff. If you're able to time that out on a whiff, if you're able to time a takedown off of the whiff, you're more than likely going to get a takedown. And if they're throwing a 4-piece combination, they add another strike onto that, that's another 10%. That's 35% of GA advantage. That's enough to get a takedown. That's enough to not only get a takedown, but also to stop your opponent from just wanting to go and launch combinations at you. So that could be one way that we could fix it. But like I said, it's just an idea. It's just an idea. Not that they need to do that. It could be a dumb idea to game changers. It could not. But I'm just trying to be part of the solution. Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. I could be right. I'm just thinking of things on the fly to help it. So don't knock me. Don't kill the messenger for actually trying to make this game better. But, But those are the things that I see as really, really big issues in UFC 5 right now. I'd love to hear what you guys think are the major problems and the major issues in UFC 5 right now in the comment section. But don't only post what you think is wrong, but also post what you think a solution is to the problem that you're stating. If you think takedowns are a problem, let me know what fix you would like to see EA do, put into the game to fix this problem. You know what I mean? I'm dying to hear what your guys' comments are. So please drop a comment in the comment section. If you're new to the video or you're new to the channel, make sure to slap the subscribe button as well as slap the like button, because I do post UFC 5 content on this channel daily. But until the next video, guys, take it easy, be safe, enjoy the rest of your guys' day, afternoon, evening, depending on where you guys are watching this from. And I will see you guys in the next video.